Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content.
King Minos has been expecting the Athenian ambassador for quite some time. Minos' son had died in Athens, and Minos prayed to the gods for revenge. The gods listened, sending a plague to devastate the city. The Athenian ambassador bows before Minos. "Sire, the oracle says that to end this plague, we must give you whatever you want." Minos pauses. "Gold? Soldiers? Cattle? Olive oil? No. The kingdom of Crete is vast, but there's one particular resident Minos needs to take care of. Send me 7 of your finest young men and 7 of your finest young women. I shall parade them through the streets and then deliver them into my underground labyrinth, where they cannot escape from the Minotaur."
Hello and welcome back to Badass of the Week. My name's Ben Thompson and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. Pat Larish.
Hello.
Hi, Pat. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
We are.
Yes, we have been working on this story that we wanted to do, and it was going to be our episode this week. And the research and the recording of it, it's kind of become this Dan Carlin hardcore history 4.5 hour long thing we're trying to condense down. But then with the beginning of school it's the beginning of the school year for Pat, it's the beginning of school year for my kid is just starting preschool. There's been we've had some other crazy extracurricular things happening. And so instead of doing the marathon episode, we were like, what can we do? Things are a little tricky getting the episode out that we wanted to get out on time. So, what can we talk about in a short period of time with very little preparation? And Greek mythology kind of falls directly into both of our wheelhouses perfectly. So we're going to tell a little myth about King Minos of Crete here.
Yeah, it's going down a bit of a rabbit hole with lots of twists and turns, kind of labyrinthine, you might say.
Yes, you might say that. Yes, King Minos is one of these guys from mythology who, the name maybe because of the Minotaur, but he is one of these guys that just ties into so many myths. A lot of the most famous Greek myths are tied into this guy, and he's just kind of the recurring villain for so many Greek heroes. It's fun. So let's talk a little bit about King Minos. So he's the king of Crete, and Pat, Crete is it's off the coast of Greece, but it's kind of a different vibe than Athens.
Yeah, it's a different vibe. It's a very big island. It might have had its own dialect, its own style of architecture, and there was a lot of exchange, like historically, cultural exchange between Crete and the rest of what we think of as Greece.
Yeah, different enough feel from the other city-states of Greece. King Minos, this is mythological, so this predates, this is prehistory, and so Minos becomes king of Crete when it has a very powerful army and is a dominant force in this region. So he takes over. He's got a pretty good army. He's got a pretty good navy. He's wealthy. He's controlling trade. And one of the first stories about Minos that I like is he was running some kind of festival. He was emceeing some festival, doing some kingly duties, and they're doing the sacrifices. This is a very ancient Greek thing to do all the sacrifices to the gods and all of that. And so,
yes,
as part of the process, he calls out to Poseidon, and Poseidon's a big deal in Crete, obviously, because it's surrounded by water. And he calls out to Poseidon and he says, "Oh, Poseidon, send me an awesome magical bull so that I can sacrifice it in your honor." And
okay. Sounds like a win-win situation.
Yes, Poseidon's the kind of guy that likes that sort of thing. And so this giant, beautiful white bull comes out of the ocean, very dramatic, waves, and the bull comes out, and King Minos says, "Wow, this bull is really nice. I don't think I want to sacrifice this thing. It's pretty cool. I'll sacrifice my second best bull, and I might just keep this one in my
Mm-hmm.
going to put him out in the pasture. He's pretty cool.
Now, he's King Minos of Crete, so his second best bull, okay, his was originally his best bull.
That's true.
Of his like mortal, non-divinely sent bulls. So probably even his second best bull is pretty good.
Yes.
Now, how does this go over?
Well, what do we know about Poseidon?
He's a god.
He's a god. He's a Greek god.
He's a powerful god.
Do you think the second best bull on Crete was sufficient for Poseidon, the god of the ocean?
Ooh, okay. This is a guy who we know from other myths holds grudges.
Yes. And
oh dear. Oh,
yeah,
this is not going to go well.
Yeah.
Oh no.
And yeah, so he's mad, and the way he chooses to express this is very Greek myth way of expressing his anger. He bestows some madness upon King Minos' wife. There's a lot of madness going around in Greek mythology. She becomes madly in love with this amazing white bull. I believe...
Wait, the bull that Minos requested from Poseidon to sacrifice to Poseidon, and then...
He didn't sacrifice it. Yeah, and now his wife is hot for it.
Okay, because I was going to say, okay, maybe he wanted to save the bull because maybe the bull could sire more cattle that were excellent among the herd.
No, well, maybe that was the plan, but instead, the King Minos' wife makes a bull.
Pasiphae?
Oh, I didn't write her name.
Yeah, her name's Pasiphae.
Pasiphae.
Yeah.
Okay, so she, I believe, makes a bull costume and gets inside it and reproduces with the bull and gives birth to the Minotaur. That's a thing that happens. That's where the Minotaur comes from.
There's a lot going on there.
There's a lot going on there. King Minos is like, what am I going to do with this Minotaur? The bull.
Wait. And it's called the Minotaur, even though it's not actually his kid.
It's not actually his kid, but Minotaur, it's like Minos' bull, right? Minotaurus. And so King Minos doesn't know what to do with the Minotaur. A Minotaur is a human lower half and a bull upper half. You've probably seen this before. The bull, that amazing white bull, after seeing the Minotaur, goes crazy and goes on this rampage around Crete, demolishing and destroying everything. And that is the Cretan bull that Hercules has to go and defeat.
Ah, okay. So that's the tie-in with our buddy Hercules.
Yeah. Hercules had to come out and deal with this thing because it had gone completely nuts and nobody could stop it. And so Minos isn't sure what to do. So, look, you're the greatest supervillain of ancient Greek mythology. You've got this violent, giant, uncontrollable Minotaur, angry dude. What are you going to do? What's the obvious thing to do here?
I was going to say, I don't know what to do because there's not much precedent for this.
I guess that's true.
There's not much precedent for a half human, half bull. Like, is the bull going to take after its mom? Is the bull going to take after its dad?
I like what you said because there is no precedent here, but there is now because King Minos has set the precedent. So he's kind of like a groundbreaking character in that way.
Huh.
Because what do you do with a creature like that? You build a labyrinth and you put it inside there and you have it eat people.
Oh, of course,
Right.
obviously. Yeah. Instead of, someone else might have tried to stage a quote unquote accident or something. I don't know.
Yeah. There are examples of people from history that I've talked on. When I was on Ridiculous History, I talked about the guy who was all covered in hair and they thought maybe it was like a werewolf man. He came in, he went and lived in the court in Italy, I believe, and was a well-respected member of the court. You could do that. You could try to teach the Minotaur to read,
Yeah.
but
You could do that. Yeah.
they did not do that. They built a subterranean lair for him. But when you are this kind of guy, you can't just build any subterranean. You can't just dig a hole in the ground and put the Minotaur in there and have it fight people. You need the best labyrinth in the world. You need a subterranean terror drome, you need Beyond Thunderdome. You need something awesome down there.
Yeah. You need something awesome down there. And, you want your Minotaur to have an enriching environment, with challenges. Like those puzzle toys you can get for your dog. You put the kibble inside and then the dog has to figure out how to get it out, Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and we never saw the whole labyrinth. I mean, we only have descriptions from like the one guy who survived it. So maybe there's
Exactly.
like a
Yeah.
whole living
Yeah.
area back there, like flushable toilets in the back. He's got like a weight room,
Yeah. Wall
Maybe
carpeting.
it was
Yeah.
awesome. He had a little man cave
Yeah.
back there with all of his, you know,
Yeah.
scarves from his favorite soccer teams.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, but you need to build this, and Minos, for this kind of thing, you have to hire an expert. And luckily, Pat, Minos had an expert in Crete, and he had a labyrinth expert.
Like you do.
Right.
Okay, now the thing is, in Greek mythology, there is one obvious person who comes to mind when you want some sort of elaborate contraption built. Well, okay, there may be two guys. One is the god Hephaestus, who's the blacksmith god and is good at making stuff. But he's a god, and he might not listen to Minos because, I mean, the gods and Minos, maybe they get along, maybe they don't. But there's Daedalus.
And why is Daedalus in Crete, Pat?
And not Athens, where he was originally. Well, okay, so back in Athens, Daedalus was training his nephew to be like a cool engineer, inventor type person. His sister had said, "Oh, Daedalus, could you take your nephew, Perdix?" And Daedalus is like, "Okay, yeah, he's my nephew. I'll teach him everything I know, you know." And one day Daedalus and Perdix are like walking on the beach somewhere, and Perdix sees some fish bones, and he's thinking, Perdix, the nephew, is like, what if I made this out of metal? Now, this is the olden days. This is before a lot of basic tools had been invented, at least according to myth. So Perdix, inspired by fish bones, makes the first saw.
Oh, I didn't know that
Which
story.
is
Yeah.
a humble tool. We take it for granted. Okay, there's an origin story. It's a myth, Perdix in his own minor way is a badass. And Daedalus, instead of saying, "Hey, great job, nephew, that's so cool," Daedalus, he feels threatened. He feels jealous. Like, is Perdix going to outshine him?
Am I suddenly the second best architect in Athens?
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what happens. Maybe Daedalus says, "Hey, let's go up to the top of the Acropolis and, I don't know, talk more about your amazing invention," or something like that. And Daedalus throws Perdix off the Acropolis, the high ridge that's part of the city, and Perdix falls to his death.
So the next time you're struggling with a saw, you're trying to saw a thing and it keeps sliding off, and you're like, I wish whoever invented this, like something bad happened to them. It did. The guy who invented that, at least according to mythology, got thrown off the top of the highest point of Athens in front of the entire city.
Yeah, it seems a bit extreme.
And then the dude that did it got exiled and was forced to build a labyrinth.
Yeah. So Daedalus gets out of town because otherwise he'd be tried as a murderer. So he goes to Crete, and Minos recognizes that, okay, this is not just any random person who's shown up on his doorstep looking for some sort of refuge. This is Daedalus.
Yeah.
So, for all your labyrinth designing and building needs.
Yeah, you can build this labyrinth for me, or I can send you back to the Athenians. What's the deal? And so Daedalus builds an awesome labyrinth, and the Minotaur goes down there, and he has his weight room, and he's hanging out. That's going pretty well. And then King Minos, he runs into a little trouble with the people of Athens, and not over Daedalus. He, at one point, King Minos sends one of his kids, and King Minos has like 100 kids. He's very famously promiscuous with many different nymphs and goddesses and all of this stuff. There's one story that he conquered a rival country by seducing the daughter of the king to open the gates of the city, and then when they defeat the rival king, he just sails away, and she wants Minos so bad that she swims after him and drowns. And her name is Scylla, and there's some confusion over, or at least there's some. I thought that was the origin of the Scylla myth from Scylla and Charybdis, like Odysseus, the vortex that sucks you down into the ocean. I think there might be some debate on that, or maybe that's not true, but
yeah, I think that there might be two separate people or creatures or entities in myth called Scylla. Yeah.
And both of them, like, yeah, so Scylla like drowns trying to get to him, but she's not
Yeah.
the Scylla, the never-ending like ocean storm that Odysseus has to navigate.
Fear of sailors, yeah.
Mhm.
And a side note on the Scylla we're talking about, so she swims after Minos, like she's like madly in love with him or something. And the way she was going to betray her city, like hand over her city to Minos, was that there was this thing where her father had like normal colored hair, except one of his locks was purple. And as long as that lock of hair was on his head, the city could not be taken. So Scylla like sneaks in at night and cuts off that purple lock of hair. And I don't know, like she puts it in her pocket or something. I don't know, holds it between her. I don't know. Somehow she takes it with her and offers it to Minos. And Minos knows the deal with the locks when he sees the lock of purple hair. Okay, in one version of the myth, she at least lives long enough to at least talk to Minos. And she's thinking, oh my goodness, he'll be like so thrilled that now I've given him in effect the key to the city, although I guess it's a lock to the city. Instead, Minos says, wait a minute, you betrayed not only your city, but also your own father. I don't think I want to deal with the likes of you. You know?
Okay.
And so that's one version of the myth. Like
that makes him like less of an unlikable prick.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's still.
Still, not that he's a likable guy. It's like a little bit less.
Yeah.
Dials that myth back a little bit versus the version of it that I'd heard.
Yeah. But, one way or another, like either she drowns as she's swimming or he like throws her into the ocean. And even if she's not like actually the same as the Scylla whirlpool who drowns sailors, we can still imagine her there in the ocean, something. Some kind of evil or some kind of dark presence remaining kind of thing. I always thought it was the same. And it makes sense. The vibe, we've got compatible vibes. Yeah.
So sad about the way that you went down that like you make a whirlpool that kills people forever. It's just going to get even crazier. But before that, let's go and do an ad real quick. Anyway, Minos has a lot of kids, and one of his sons, I think his oldest, goes off to Athens to participate in some sort of feats of strength, some sort of Olympics style game. And while he's there, he's performing well, but somebody gets jealous and stabs him and kills him.
There's a lot of jealousy in this story.
A lot of jealousy in the story. A lot of jealousy in Greek mythology in general, but this one especially.
Well, okay, that's fair. Yeah,
Kid Minos gets stabbed, and Daddy Minos is like, that's it. So he sails his entire navy there, his entire army. He surrounds Athens.
Which is formidable.
Yes. He surrounds Athens. He bombards it. And not only that, because it's not just a crushing military victory, but once he has the city besieged, he like goes out on his like flagship and he starts demanding that the gods like call down plagues and fire and destroy curses and all this stuff onto the city. And eventually the Athenians
Do the gods listen?
Well, sort of. The Athenians are so scared that they surrender unconditionally. And Minos says, okay, I'll call off the gods if you give me 7 sons and 7 daughters every year to put into my labyrinth to do that dog toy thing with the Minotaur. But the gods have listened to Minos before. So you had said Daedalus was the main architect. I mean, not only did Poseidon send the bull to Minos, but you had mentioned the other greatest architect was the forge god Hephaestus. And Hephaestus did build something for Minos. He built Talos, the 50-foot tall bronze golem that it's like a bronze golem that wanders the Cretan beach and throws rocks at boats that go past. And it once killed a bunch of guys they were trying to attack it, and it jumped into a fire and got itself superheated and then ran over and like bear hugged 20 guys and burned them up.
Ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Ouch.
Yeah. Talos is something that Odysseus has to deal with at some point. Oh, wait, no, Jason. Is it Jason that has to
Jason
do?
and the Argonauts,
Jason's got to deal
like,
with him.
cue up Ray Harryhausen,
Yes.
in pictures, stop motion animation, like, large metal dude stomping around.
Yeah, like a mech, right? And they have to fight it. I think they pull it. There's like a pin they have to pull out of its foot, and it drains the oil out of it, and that makes it stop. I think that's how they defeat it.
Well, it's not any oil, it's ichor, which is the same fluid that flows in the veins of the gods.
Oh.
So he's like a semi-divine, like maybe not divine, but like god adjacent golem.
That's pretty cool.
Or something.
That's the kind of thing King Minos can have the god Vulcan create for him, and so you might as well, like, when he's like calling down curses onto your city, you should probably just give up. Probably just send those kids over to the Minotaur, see what's up.
Yeah, I mean, sucks for the 7 boys and 7 girls, but
but
the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few.
That's right. So this goes on for a little while. Unclear how many Athenian youths are sent to the Labyrinth, but at some point, this is where you get the myth of Theseus, the Athenian hero Theseus.
That guy.
Yes, yeah. Theseus is. I have thoughts on Theseus, but he is a central part of the Minos story. Although you will notice that we decided to talk about Minos and not Theseus.
Because we could. There's a lot to say about Theseus. Yeah.
Yes.
But as far as his story pertains to the story of King Minos,
he arrives and he meets. I guess there's more like familial betrayal in this story as well.
Yeah. Now, Theseus actually volunteers to be one of the 7. Well, boys. We said boys, but it's young men.
Yeah.
He volunteers to be one of the. I volunteer to be tribute, and because he wants to do something about it.
Yeah. He's mad about this. He wants to stop it.
Yeah, he's thinking, okay, yeah. So he gets himself as part of the 14, and somehow, one way or another, when they get to Crete, Minos's daughter, or one of his daughters, Ariadne, sees Theseus, thinks he's cute.
It's the parade. They had a parade. It's like New Year's or something, and they do a parade like they do in Hunger Games. Like, that's a great reference. Because she sees him at the parade.
Yeah. And the two of them somehow manage to communicate. And Theseus is like, wait a minute, you're the princess. Like, do you have like any inside information? Because like, hey, I'd like to go on another date with you, or like an actual date with you, or whatever. But I can't if I'm being eaten by a Minotaur. So Ariadne says, okay, hey, okay. I am a woman in the ancient world. Therefore, I spent a lot of my time weaving and thinking about textiles. Here is a ball of string. Tie one end to, like, I don't know, the door handle at the entrance of the labyrinth and just roll it out behind you. It's a very large ball of string. And hey, guess what? It's like the breadcrumbs in Hansel and Gretel, except it's yarn, so no one's going to eat it, right?
Yeah. And they go down there, and he goes in. He valiantly kills the Minotaur while it's sleeping, finds the people, and leads them out.
Yeah, following the string.
And then him and Ariadne, they live happily ever after, right?
Maybe in some alternate timeline. Theseus obviously wants to leave. He wants to get back to Athens. And Ariadne, well, she might be feeling kind of not wanting to be around her dad because she foiled his devious plan. She betrayed her father, although maybe for better reasons than Scylla betrayed her father. So Ariadne says, hey, Theseus, can I like run off with you? Like, hey, like, we're in love, right? And, well, Theseus takes Ariadne on his ship, but one night when Ariadne is sleeping, the ship pulls up at this little island, Naxos, and Theseus abandons Ariadne on the beach of the island of Naxos.
Awesome.
Now, well, I mean, hey, free vacation on a Greek island, right?
Yeah, it could be worse, right? It's worse places to be marooned.
Yeah. Well, yeah, except the thing is, she is marooned, and abandoned, and like whatever, like Now, as a side note, the god Dionysus notices her, falls in love, and turns out okay. I mean, she gets turned into a constellation in the sky, which I guess is a good thing, So
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean, marooned on a Greek island with the god of wine. That doesn't sound so bad.
yeah.
Theseus, meanwhile, goes on to be generally inept, and he's imprisoned in Hades because he tries to sleep with the god of the underworld's wife. I think against her will, and he's imprisoned in Hades. So that's how he ends up. Uh, so, but now, King Minos, he had built this weird supervillain death trap, kind of, like you do. It's foiled, and he's upset with Theseus, but he's still got Daedalus with him, and he's like, Daedalus, that was supposed to be an inescapable labyrinth, and this guy figured it out. Like, the secret weapon for figuring this out was a ball of twine.
Like, that's your cheat code, dude?
Yeah. You needed to have built something better than that. So he imprisons Daedalus in a tower as punishment for building a substandard labyrinth.
Mm-hmm. And this is Daedalus, and also Daedalus' son, Icarus, who we hadn't talked about, but he's there.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. And this is where we get that myth, where they're imprisoned in this tower and they're basically just going to like rot there. And Daedalus, being the genius inventor that he is able to build famously build two sets of wings, like bird-like wings, using some sort of wax and feathers. Him and Icarus jump out of the tower, they fly, it works, but he tells his son, don't fly too close to the sun because the sun will melt the wax.
He also says, don't fly too close to the waves of the Mediterranean because the spray from the waves will get the wings soggy and you'll fall.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of a Flappy Bird situation where you've got to kind of stay in between.
Yeah. yeah. And I'm sure there's like some metaphor for life here also. But yeah, so he gives Icarus directions, instructions, Yeah.
Icarus struggles with him. He goes too high, his wings melt, he falls into the ocean, and he dies. And King Minos probably thought that was hilarious. And so that's Daedalus escapes, but Icarus does not. And Daedalus is pretty upset that his son is dead, and he blames King Minos for it, which he should, because it was totally King Minos' fault. And so he gets his revenge in a very Greek engineer way, which is he climbs onto the roof of King Minos' bathhouse, drills a hole in the ceiling above King Minos' bathroom, and pours boiling pitch onto him while he's in the bathtub, which just sounds like an awful way to go.
Yeah.
Taking a bath in your awesome bathtub in your palace. You're the most powerful king in the known world. Gods listen to you. And some dude just pours a bunch of boiling tar onto you while you're boiling tar onto your head and just cooks you alive in your own bathtub.
Yep.
King Minos.
What a way to go.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it was bound to happen for this guy at some point. Like he'd kind of,
he had it coming.
He'd earned it. Yeah.
Karma's a bear. Yeah. Now, Ben, you mentioned, other people who faced punishment in the underworld. So obviously Minos, he's a total jerk. Obviously he's going to be suffering through all eternity in Tartarus, right?
You think, right? But that's not what happens, is it?
Not in this timeline, apparently. Okay. What does happen?
His body is entombed in the temple of Aphrodite because she liked him. And
okay.
Yeah, I didn't get into
There's no accounting for taste.
Yeah, I didn't get into all the weird sex stuff, but there's a lot of weird sex stuff with Minos too. I didn't want to dig too deeply into that, but there's a lot of weird sex stuff with him. But Aphrodite was into it. He gets entombed in the temple of Aphrodite. He goes down to the underworld, and rather than Hades saying like, I like to envision Hades is down there, and he's like, I don't know what to do with you, man. You're like the biggest supervillain ever. And King Minos was probably like, look, I'm an awesome administrator. Like, I could tell you where I'd put me, but I could also tell you where I could put all these other guys. And Hades is like, well, I don't know, do you want a job? And he gives King Minos a job. So King Minos' job in the underworld is when you were a Greek person and you died and you went into the underworld, King Minos was the guy who decided whether you got to go to the Elysian Fields or to Tartarus. Like, he picked whether you went to heaven or hell. The
Yeah.
Catholicism got St. Peter the Benevolent, and Greek mythology got King Minos, who just
The devious
the
or something?
devious, yes, the violent,
Wow,
murdering
okay.
sex fiend, that tells you who decides what level of what your afterlife experience should be like. This actually got carried over into Christian mythology, because in Dante's Inferno, King Minos is the guy.
Ah.
He's in the first level of the underworld, and he's the one that decides which level of hell you belong in. So you go up to heaven, St. Peter figures out, but you go down to hell, King Minos is there. He's a great administrator, and he knows the job. He knows evil when he sees it. He can place you in the right spot. He knows what he's doing. This
Yeah.
guy's a pro at this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Dante in the Inferno writes, upon like arriving in hell, Dante says, Minos was there, scowling and terrible, examining the faults of new arrivals. He judges them and sends each to his place. Which,
Ooh.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. So he's a good administrator.
Yeah, super powerful, super villain, Greek mythology. We tied in Hercules, Jason, Odysseus. We tied in Theseus. We tied in all Daedalus, Icarus. All of these interesting myths, all kind of tie into this one guy, King Minos, who was a complete bastard, yet still got like a cushy job in the afterlife.
Because he was a good administrator, he could probably size people up pretty quickly. And also, apparently, he has a deep and abiding interest in complicated underground structures.
Yes. Yeah. He appreciated engineering, and he was a patron of engineers and architects. He understood the value of that. There is some debate as to what, like, they refer to him sometimes as like a semi-legendary king, which is like there might have actually been a real King Minos, a real king in Crete named Minos. He probably didn't he probably didn't feed people to a giant cannibal bull man and shoot scorpions out of his pants. But
but we have no proof that he didn't.
That's true. That's history for you folks. We can't prove it didn't happen.
Yeah, probably highly unlikely, but
unlikely, yes.
Yes, but we have good stories, and that's what mythology's for.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's our episode for today. We are going to be back next week, and we're going to be talking about a really fun one that we've been putting together for a couple of weeks now, and we're excited to share it with you next week. So stick around, and I hope you guys have a great back to school, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Stay badass.
Badass of the Week is produced by High Five Content. Executive producers are me, Ben Thompson, Dr. Patricia Larish, and Andrew Jacobs. Writing is by me and Pat. Story editing by Ian Jacobs. Mixing and music and sound design by Jude Brewer. Special thanks to Noel Brown at iHeartRadio. Badass of the Week is based on my website, badassoftheweek.com, where you can read all sorts of stories about other badasses. If you want to reach out with questions or ideas, you can email us at badasspodcast@badassoftheweek.com. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, follow, listen, and tell your friends and tell your enemies. And please leave us a rating. We'll be back next week with another one.